Hello everyone, welcome back. So today we're going to make a very simple plain leather cover for these Fiskars thread snips. I never had a pair of thread snips, and these were on a doorbuster or something like that. They're usually like $10, and they were half price, $4.99. So I've always just used a regular scissor, but I've been making a lot of stuff on the sewing machine, and I noticed that I really can't get very close to snip the thread off, and then I have to trim it more. So I wanted to get a pair of these. I've seen a lot of professionals use these because it gets very close to the fabric, and they're very, very sharp, and it just spring loaded. But these are very sharp, and I don't want to damage them or damage myself. So I want to make something just to cover it. Very simple with a snap. Alright, so how we're going to start is, let's see. Well, we're going to want a loop to come out through here. So what I'm going to do, hopefully you can see this. I'm going to just draw this like this. Alright. So that's step one. I'll just remove this excess here. Okay. Alright, now we'll take this, slip it through there. That's good. And again, I don't know if I just want to cover the blades or this whole end. Let's do this for now. Sometimes making the template takes longer than actually making whatever the heck you're doing. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll fold it in half. This way it's very symmetrical. Alright. So that's what we got so far. Let's see. And then I could just put another piece right over the top of this. Or extend this and just fold it over. Nah. I think I like that. So then what I'll do is I'll cut another piece like this. Again, just roughing it out, just throwing those ideas around in my head. That's pretty cool. Then you would just unsnap this and then pull it out. So already I could see I didn't make this wide enough if I'm going to go over this, because there's not enough room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get another piece of cardboard. I'm going to make these same shapes, except I'm going to make this wider, like something like that. So that I have enough room to stitch around it. Alright, so I'm going to make that up, and then I'll bring you back when I have the final 2 templates, but it's going to be just the same way I just did that. Alright, so I made it a little bigger. Then I realized that I always put staples in it, and then I take the staples out. I always like to do the template first. Then I realized that I put the staples too far down, and I had to close it to put it in. And then when it opens back up, it kind of locks itself in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this part that I was going to put a snap on right off. So we end up with this. It's just going to be 2 pieces of leather sewn together, right? We have a little pocket here, no welting or anything. Then when I'm done with the scissors, I'll close them, slip them in here, and when I let them go, that's what's going to hold it in, and it shouldn't come off. I think that'll be perfect. So now I need to get 2 little pieces of leather. I will take these staples out, and that also gives me a guide on just about where I want to put the stitches, which is perfect. So I'll cut these 2 pieces of leather out. Let me find some scraps and I'll be back. Alright, so I have 2 scraps here. Very dissimilar. One's a little thicker than the other. This one's a little discolored. I really don't care. This is just a quick down and dirty little sheet to protect myself. So I think I said I was going to take the staples out. There's no need, because both sides are exactly the same. So all I'm going to do is trace this, make sure I got enough room here. And then I just use these cutters. I picked these up at Harbor Freight. They're stainless steel. That's all it says on it. No brand name. But they were relatively cheap, but they cut leather great. And I'll stay just a little bit outside the line. Okay, that's one side. I'll do the same thing on the other side, and I'll bring you back. All right, I got a little glare here. Hopefully this is coming out. So I have my 2 pieces cut. Now I'm just going to use some contact cement. That's what I use for my leather. And I'm going to put some contact cement right around the edge and leave the bottom open, okay? I don't think you want to watch glue dry. So I'll bring you back when these 2 pieces are glued together, like that. All right, I'm in a whole nother different lighting situation. Look at that shadow. Let's see if I turn this. Same thing. It is what it is. All right, so it's glued together with the contact cement. I don't know if you could see right over there. That's Earl's shadow. So now the next thing, and again, I'm doing this very rough and quick. If I was making a knife sheath or a holster, there'd be a lot more attention to detail. These pieces would be pretty close to exactly the same. But again, this is just a down and dirty quick one. So now I'm going to take this over to my belt sander, and I'm going to sand this edge to get these both the same and smooth it up. So let me bring you over there. All right, so we're over at the belt sander. Oop, that was Earl over there again. And we're just going to sand it. So that's pretty good. Let me bring you back over to the table. All right. Sorry about the shadows. I have some weird lighting going on. But here it is. It's looking good. And I got a plethora of stuff here. I don't know if you all remember when I made this bone letter opener. Well, this is the same basic style of sheath like I'm doing now, where it just slips in like that. Okay. So, oh, and here was the original design I was going to use on the scissor, was to have a snap, put it in, reach it around, a snap. And again, these were just all quickly put together with scraps of leather. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is, now I don't have many store-bought tools for my leather stuff, leather crafting. Most of them I made myself. I really should get a good set of chisels and you know, various other leather making tools like Mr. Tolly. But these, they work for me now. So this little set here, what it has in it is 4 tools and this little punch. And what these are, I fabricated these, and I'll show you these 2 first. Okay, this gives me my guideline for my holes. If you look here, hopefully that shows up. This side rests on the outside, and then this side makes a mark. I'll show you. I don't know if that's going to show up, and I did it kind of crooked. Okay, so I would put it down, I go like that. Hopefully that showed up. So that one gives me that spacing, and then this one is a little narrower, depending on what I want, how close I want the thread to be on the edge. Okay, then I have these 2 tools that I use to mark where my stitches are going to go. So for example, put it like this, press it in here, spin it around, just walk it down my line. So you can see now I have evenly spaced dots, and if I can't get the exact number of these in that line, you jump over to one of these, this one's a little bit narrower, and you could see that on this, those 2 holes are closer, but once you finish the stitch line, you don't really know, your eye does not pick up that that one spacing or that one thread is a little bit shorter. So because you got to get them all in whatever you're doing. All right. So what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to start right about here. All right, So we have our line. And now I'll take this tool actually I'm going to make a stitch come over this edge here because I want this to be tight here. So actually I'm going to start here so I end up in the middle. So now I'll just put two little, you know, very slight pressure just so I can see it. It's probably not even showing up in the camera. And I'll walk this all the way around till I have all of my little marks, and I'll bring you back when that's done. Alright, so I have all my little stitch marks, stitch holes marked. Now I just use this punch and I take whenever you're hitting metal with a hammer, try to use brass, otherwise you're going to mushroom the heck out of it. Alright, now I'll just take this, place it in those little marks, and just hammer it through. And that's how I make my stitch holes. I basically punch them all through with this little punch here. So let me get that done and I'll bring you back. Alright, so all our holes are punched. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a bevel tool and I'm just going to bevel this bottom edge. And I want to, it's very difficult to get my head close to the stuff with the camera right above me. I kind of have a homemade stand and crappy lighting right now because you can see all those shadows. Let's make some puppets, shadow puppets. So basically the bevel tool is this, and you run it along the edge. It takes off a little piece of the leather and it gives you a nice little bevel on the edge. So I could probably do it. Let me see. Okay, I'm just doing these two bottom edges. Because like I said, I'm going to run the stitch over this like this to hold this closed. And if I don't bevel it now, I won't be able to bevel it later. But the rest of this I'll bevel after I stitch. I could do it now. It really wouldn't matter. I'll do it now. Just so you could see. See that? So that's how you bevel. If you don't have a bevel tool, you can use sandpaper. And if you don't have a belt grinder, you can use sandpaper. So let me set up, get my needles and threads, and I'll show you how I'm going to sew that. Alright, hopefully the lighting's better. So now I have, this is just a 2-ply waxed nylon thread. 2 needles, we're going to do a saddle stitch. For small things, I don't use a stitching pony, but you want to have at least 4 times the length of thread. On smaller projects, I use extra, so I have something to grip onto. Alright, so we're going to start off down here. And like I said, I want to come around the bottom. Just try to make sure my thread is the same length. Okay, see that? Now, like if I'm doing something like a knife sheath or something, I wouldn't necessarily do that unless it was protected, because that's a point where it could get cut. But again, this is just for a scissor, so we should be fine. And I'll pull this. You can see it bites into the leather, and it kind of almost gets flush. Now, word of warning, see how I have this wrapped around my fingers? If you do this a lot, like you're sewing a big project, you will cut. The thread will cut into your fingers, so you can wear like finger cots, or sometimes I've seen people use band-aids on their hand where they're pulling these. But this is a very small project, and my fingers kind of turn into cast iron after a while. All right, so the saddle stitch, continue on, go in there. So you come in one side. Now I'm doing this slow, hopefully, so you can see. So now I'll take this one and I'll pull it down this way. Then I take the second needle and come in on top of that thread. Okay, you want to try not to pierce the thread that's already in there. Okay, and then I'll snug this up. See that? And then come in, hold that down. And again, if I wasn't doing it on camera, this would go pretty quick. Okay. Snug it up. And there you have 2 stitches done already. I'll do one more and then I'll finish this off camera. Come in on the top, hold it down, and snug it up. All right, so I'll finish stitching that and I'll bring you back. All right, so we have it all stitched around. Now when we come down to the bottom, we want to back stitch at least 2. Okay, so I wanted to show you that before I finished it. So we came around and we back stitched. This is the last one here. Sometimes you need a pliers to persuade it to come through. And that's our stitching done. Now I'll actually get my little thread snips. We'll snip this off and we'll burn the ends and we'll take it to the next step. I'll be right back. All right, actually the first time I'm using these. Oh yeah, nice. I like it. Look at that, huh? Now here's the real test. How much? Oh, it's perfect. I could trim it down if I want. Look at that. Awesome. So now I just leave 2 little tiny nubs. You're probably not going to be able to see it. And then I'll just melt them down. And that's it right there. Okay. Now, let me grab my hammer. Alright, so I just have a nice flat piece of wood here. And yeah, I use the nylon side. You're just sort of setting the threads in. Don't go crazy because you'll leave marks. I rounded this off. You can feel it with your fingers. There's a tool they make that actually makes a groove and it buries the threads below the surface. Got to get that one day. All right. Not bad for all hand done, right? So now you would think, okay, this is just going to slip in here, but it's not because this is very stiff. So we got to get this pocket open. And how we're going to do that is we're going to wet it. So I'm just going to soak this in water for probably about, it's going to be warm water. What happens is you see bubbles come up. And when the bubbles stop, it's pretty saturated. And then I'll bring you back. All right, so it's soaked. So now's the make or break time to see if this is going to work. So I have just a little pop stick. I'm going to loosen this up. I wish I actually had like a thinner leather right now, but you can see it's actually wet molding now. See that? Yeah, this piece is thicker. Now, normally, if I'm wet molding something that I don't have a mold for, like a wooden mold or like a plastic mold for like a firearm, they have those blue molds. I'll cover them in plastic wrap, like I'll oil it if it's metal, and I'll cover it in plastic wrap, and then I use that to wet mold it. But this is plastic and stainless steel, so I don't have to do that. So we're going to slip this in. Hopefully it goes in. Right to the end. And we're just going to make sure your fingernails don't go in. It'll leave a mark. And just be gentle with it. So what I'm doing now is because I want this to open a little bit when it goes inside. So I'm kind of pressing down at the point where it would open in there. And that's going to lock everything in. Now, if you had a machine like Brother Mitchell over at Guns, Knives, and Beer, doing these stitches is super fast. This obviously is small, so it didn't take that long. But this video is probably, I don't know, it's probably getting into quite a length. And I'm making it longer by yapping, but I just wanted to let you know that if I was doing this without filming it and explaining it, it's pretty quick. It's just 2 pieces. So again, just do your thing. Try to get everything centered. And again, it's just a $5 scissor, but you know what? There's no reason why it can't have a $100 sheath on it. Now, like I said, this is plastic and stainless steel, so I could just leave this in here and let it dry, but I'm actually not. I'm going to take it out. See, it actually does open a little bit, is what we want. So I'm going to pop it out, and I'm going to let this dry. Now, I am not a huge proponent of, I guess for lack of a better term, force drying it. But you could, for a small little tiny project like this, you could, if your oven goes down to like 170 degrees or something, you could put your oven on 170 degrees, okay, and let it come up to temp, shut it off, okay, open the door, let it cool down a little bit more. If you have one of those infrared thermometers, that's awesome. Get it down to like around 120 degrees or so, 110 degrees. Put it on a piece of cardboard like this. Put it in the oven. Leave the door open, okay? Do not close the door. Leave it open. And it'll dry probably in half the time, or maybe a third of the time, a small little project like this. Be warned that when you do it that way, it will stiffen up the leather. So that's actually a tip. If you have some very soft leather, like belly leather, that tends to be softer, and if you could actually stiffen it up by doing that, okay? Then you need to do a conditioning on it afterwards. So I'm going to let this dry, and as you can see, it's going to need a little bit more work on the edge there, because again, I didn't go crazy. It's not a knife sheath or a holster. So once this dries, I'll bring you back. All right, so it's all dried. Take our scissors and we'll see how it fits. Nice. And it locks in. It ain't coming off. So at this point, you could say you're done. Again, because it's just a little scissor cover, right? But we're going to take it a little bit further. So pull it out. Now, I do not ever use any types of oil, neat's foot oil or anything. I don't know if you know, heard of the DeSantis leather company, but it's based in New York, pretty close to where I used to live. And I had communication back and forth with Mr. DeSantis, and he said never ever use any type of oil on leather products. So I never ever did. He said use some kind of conditioner, but never ever use oil. He was very adamant about never using oil. Now again, there's a lot of folks that use oil with great success. I oiled something one time with some neat's foot oil, and I literally ruined it. And it was a DeSantis product, and I had said, hey, this was no good, and actually sent it back, and that's when I had the communication back and forth with him, and he said, I could tell you oiled it, and he told me never do that. So I've never done it again. But what I do is I use this Lexol leather conditioner, okay? A tiny bit of this goes a long way. Now, let's see what's in this. Does it have ingredients? It does not say. But preserves, straightens, and beautifies leather, blah, blah. Oh, contains microscopically fine oil droplets which bond to the leather fibers, nourishing and enhancing your leather's flexibility and utility. Leaves no greasy residue. So again, this has got some kind of oil in it, but it's different than taking like a neat's foot oil or something and put it on it. I use this on everything because it's a leather conditioner versus an oil, let's say a straight oil, okay? But before we do that, let's take it another step further. I have just a little piece of wood here and a piece of 150 sandpaper. And I'm just gonna clean up the edges a little bit. just like this. And again, I wasn't too concerned, you know, getting it perfect, again, because just a little quick project, although this video is probably going to end up 2 days long. Oh, also another tip, if you want to see if your leather is dry, take it and hold it to your cheek. If it feels cool on your cheek, it's not dry. All right, so I'm just going to finish that up, and then we'll condition it. All right. So again, I got it to where I'm happy with it. You can go crazy. They have stuff called edge coat. You could do the edges. Of course, we could have dyed it. So many things you could do. And this basic principles of everything I did is how you would make something for, you know, a knife or a hatchet or a magazine or whatever. It's all the same basic principles. All right, so we're gonna put some Lexol on here. Let me put something down. And again, very, very little. I just put a little drop on my finger. Hello. And just rub it in. And you can put some on the inside too if you want. Just rub it in. And, you know, follow the instructions. You let it dry, shake well, apply 1 to 2 sprays, rub conditioner into clean leather until evenly dispersed. After a few minutes, wipe off the excess and buff with a clean cloth. So I'm going to let that set up for a few minutes and I'll bring you back. Alright, so the Lexol dried. I love the color it brings out. So again, you could call it done at this point. But what the heck, like I said, this video is already like 2 days long, so let's make it longer. Let's do a little burnishing. Now, you can use a hand burnishing tool. You can use a pencil. You could use any smooth object and just keep rubbing to burnish the edge. But I have a burnishing machine that I made. Okay, so let me see if I could give you a better look at this thing. So basically, this just has a motor in it. It's a like a, what is it from? I don't know. It's like a 24 volt motor, sort of like a laptop power supply. I'm sorry, the motor's over here, 24 volt motor with a power supply from like a laptop. Then it just has a gear here and a pulley that goes to here, and this is just a piece of walnut that I put on this shaft, and I basically took like a cutting tool and made these grooves, and that's how I burnish it. Let me lower this back down. All right, let's burnish. All right. Now again, if you have the edge coat or you dyed this, that would really, really shine. Now normally I would do the burnishing before I put the Lexol on, and you wet the edge to get a nice burnish on it. But we're going to go one step further. All right. Now normally the last thing I do when I do a leather project is I use a neutral shoe polish to put the final, like a wax polish on it. I stopped doing that and I use this Johnson's Paste Wax. It actually says on it for leathers and plastic. And it's much cheaper to buy this giant one than those little ones, the neutral shoe wax. And this stuff goes a long way. Watch the shine we get on this. And I just work it in, work it in. See it getting darker? Funny how I started out, oh, quick and dirty, fast, little cover for a pair of scissors. And then I get into it and I'm like, I gotta take this to where it needs to be. It just calls out and says, come on, you don't do a half a job. I love how this darkens it up. Look at that. Then I'll throw the burnisher back on real quick. Be careful, look, see my burnisher hit that right there, left that little, it burnished it. But yeah, it gives it a little character. Is that what everybody says when they make a mistake? It gives it character. Man, I'm full of character. All right, let me let this dry and I'll bring you back. All right, now we take a cloth, this is a micro cloth, and just start buffing it. Look at that, huh? See that? Look at that edge. So we took a quick, down and dirty leather project pretty far. There it is. Take our thread snips. Oh yeah, like a glove. Fits like a glove. So we have a $5 pair of thread snips that have a $100 leather cover. So I hope you enjoyed that. I know it was long. I hope you stuck with it. There's a lot of techniques in there. that, you know, could be used to do tons of leather projects. You know, I don't have a lot of store-bought tools, so it's easily doable at home. So I hope you learned something. I hope it was useful. I sure had fun making it, and it's something that I needed because I was pretty scared. Yeah, I was really afraid I was going to poke myself. These things are razor sharp. Now I don't have to worry. I could take this, I could throw it in my little kit, and I'm good to go. So there it is. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you all are having a wonderful day. I hope you all are staying safe out there. Much love and respect to you all, my brothers and sisters, and we'll see you on the next one.